Can yeah, I can. I can. Vishwa Nruthya Bhushana. Vishwa Nruthya Bhushana. Vishwa Nruthya Bhushana. Vishwa Nruthya Bhushana. Vishwa Nruthya Bhushana.
Namaskar. Bhushans Academy of Performing Arts and Visual Presentation welcomes you all for Vishwa Nruthya Bhushana happening on our Facebook page, Vishwa Nruthya Bhushana. As there is a norm, I apologize for the delay due to the technical snag at both the ends, at mine as well as Ramya's end, because there is heavy downpour at both the places, so hence the network was playing havoc. So I apologize profusely for the same, and without much ado, let's go with today's schedule. ಸ್ನೇಹಿತರೆ, ಭೂಷನ್ಸ್ ಪ್ರದರ್ಶಕ ಕಲೆಗಳು ಮತ್ತು ದೃಶ್ಯ ಪ್ರಸ್ತುತಿ ಕೇಂದ್ರ ಈ ದಿನದ ವಿಶ್ವ ನೃತ್ಯಗಾನ ಭೂಷಣ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮಕ್ಕೆ ನಿಮ್ಮನ್ನು ಸ್ವಾಗತಿಸುತ್ತೇವೆ. ನಿಮಗೆ ತಿಳಿದಿರುವ ಹಾಗೆ ಆಗಸ್ಟ್ 10ನೇ ತಾರೀಕಿನಿಂದ ಸತತವಾಗಿ ಪ್ರತಿ ದಿನವೂ ನಾವು ನಿಮ್ಮೊಂದಿಗೆ ಒಬ್ಬ ಅದ್ಭುತ ಕಲಾವಿದರನ್ನ ತಂದು ಪರಿಚಯ ಮಾಡುವಂತ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ. ಈ ದಿನ ನಮ್ಮೊಂದಿಗೆ ಕ್ಯಾಲಿಫೋರ್ನಿಯಾದ ಅಮೆರಿಕ ನಿವಾಸಿಯಾದಂತಹ ಭಾರತದ ಮೂಲ ನಿವಾಸಿಯಾದಂತಹ ಶ್ರೀಮತಿ ರಮ್ಯಾ ಹರಿಶಂಕರ್ ಅವರಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅವರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ತಿಳ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋಣ. Ladies and gentlemen, today we have acclaimed Bharatnatyam artist Smt.Ramya Harishankar with us. Ramya Harishankar is the artistic director of the Arpana Dance Academy and School, a premier school of Bharatnatyam in California. In 2012, she was awarded the Kala Seva Bharati Award by Bharat Kalachar India for her contribution to Indian arts abroad. In 2007, the 25th anniversary of Arpana was recognized with several citations, awards from the State Senate of California, country of Los Angeles, and cities and organizations in the Southern California, as well as the Helen Modjeska Cultural Legacy Award from Arts OC, the countrywide arts organization in Orange County. Arpana Dance Company has performed extensively in the US, Europe, India, Japan. Ramya and ADC have received several grants from the California Arts Council, Alliance for California Traditional Arts, and is a two-time national endowment of the Arts Choreographic Fellowship. As an artist on Smt.Ramya Performing Arts Center Arts Teach roster, she has been sharing her art with school children all over South California since 1989. Her solo career, spanning more than 3 decades, has taken her all over the world, performing extensively in India, Asia, Europe, Australia, and North America. Ladies and gentlemen, without much ado, let us welcome today's artist, Ramya Harishankar. Hello, Ramya. Ramya ji, namaskaram. Can you hear me? I think your mic is on mute. Kindly unmute the mic so that we could get to hear. Your mic is not connected. Hello? Ramya ji, your mic is not connected. Your mic is not connected. I'm not able to hear anything. Ladies and gentlemen, before I start, by the time Ramya ji works on her mic, she started a journey as usual from India. She is an Indian-based dancer. Can you hear me? Your mic is... Your mic is not connected. ಸ್ನೇಹಿತರೆ, ನಿಮಗೆ ತಿಳಿದಿರೋ ಹಾಗೆ ಸತತವಾಗಿ ಆಗಸ್ಟ್ 10ನೇ ತಾರೀಕಿನಿಂದ ನಾವು ಒಬ್ಬೊಬ್ಬ ಅದ್ಭುತ ಕಲಾವಿದರನ್ನ ಪ್ರಪಂಚದ ಬೇರೆ ಬೇರೆ ಕಡೆಯಿಂದ ನಾವು ಪ್ರಯತ್ನ ಪಡ್ತಾ ಇದೀವಿ ತರೋದಕ್ಕೆ. ಎಸ್, ಐ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಹಿಯರ್ ಯು ನೌ. ಎಸ್, ಐ ಥಿಂಕ್ ಸೊ. ಯಾ, ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಯು ಟಾಕ್?
Yeah, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now, Bhushan?
Yes, can we hear you now? Very well.
Hear me now?
Hello. Yes, very much. Ramya ji, welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome to Vishwa Nruthya Bhushana. Hopefully the technical snack should end here, I feel.
Yes, I apologize profusely. I think I'm coming from halfway across the world.
And we are also trying to move halfway from this side, so I can understand somewhere the networks are meeting and we're able to catch you.
And it's pretty early in the morning for me.
Yes, I'm so glad that you consented to be a part of the show and you're so up and awake so early talking to our viewers across the world.
And I have to...
The first...
Yeah, I have to acknowledge my husband and my son who are here. Otherwise, I would be lost, you know. So we're getting set up. We're changing our mode. So right.
No issues, no issues. I can understand. I can definitely understand because there is heavy downpour right outside. My setup had to be shifted also. It is like pouring cats and dogs. Outside it is like with the entire clock. I was stuck in the other side of the city by the time I could drive back home. So the road was blocked with water, literally like a swimming pool. My car was like flowing through the water. So now to start with, yeah, are you fine now? Yes, yes, yes. First and foremost obvious question I would ask you is, how did Ramya, the young Ramya, start her journey? When did you think you should learn dance, or who was instrumental in your life to start the dancing path for you?
So first of all, let me acknowledge you for inviting me to this conversation. And I think it is commendable that you're spending so much time and effort to archive conversations with all kinds of artists at different levels in their career. And it's very important work, you know, that very rarely has been done in India over the last centuries. So thank you again for inviting me. So my journey in dance began at age 6 in Delhi. My mother, like many mothers, was it was a dream unfulfilled for her. And so when I turned 6, she was very keen that I should learn dance. So she enrolled me in a class with the Guru K. Dakshinamurthy in Delhi. Dakshinamurthy, of course, is the brother of the legendary K. Dandayatapani Pillai. And so I learned in Delhi with a friend of mine. Her name is Sudamahi. Her name was Sudamahi Ramaswamy. I think she was chancellor of Jadavpur University or something later. But we began our classes together in Delhi. Of course, then it continued in Chennai after 1969 because I was one of 5. I was the eldest of 5. And my father had a business pharmacy in Connaught Place in Delhi. And he was not doing very well health-wise. And my mother was trying to juggle raising 5 of us, plus taking care of my father and helping him with the business, etc. So at some point, and I wasn't... I was, one of those troublesome young kids who thought it is too painful and my vadyar is too mean. I don't want to go to dance class. And in those days, it's mind-boggling to me because I was under the age of 10, and after school I would walk to my friend's house for dance class and take the public bus and come home. I mean, living in the US, I don't know, even in India, it seems like, wow, how do you let a 10-year-old child do that? Like go on your own. I don't know. It seems mind boggling to me, but I did that. And maybe all that. And, I do believe that, children need mentoring, especially if they have to get somewhere. It's different if it's just an activity, but if you're going to get anywhere with it, I think it's so important for somebody, to be there to mentor you through that. So my grandmother, my mother's mother, who who I call Babushka, she said, she decided that either I have to stop dancing because it's not going to go anywhere, or I have to move to Chennai, where she would be able to mentor me and fulfill my mother's dream. So that's how I ended up moving to Chennai when I was 11 years old. And I was enrolled with Swami Malay Rajaratnam, K. Rajaratnam, the legendary guru. And he used to come home and teach at that time. So my grandmother would sit in on every class and observe and listen to everything he said. And of course, she would take me to task after he left, and also she was 60 years old and took on the job of educating herself, because she said, I can't help you if I don't know good, bad, and indifferent, right? So I have to educate. So of course in Chennai, literally 3 or 4 times a week you can go to a performance. So she would go to everything, and even the not so good ones, and she would say it's important to see the not so good ones too. Chumma nalladhe paathandrunda, you think you're also dancing like that. Only when you see the not so good, then you think, oh, there's a possibility for me to be also dancing like that. So that's how I learned in Chennai. I mean, continued with Rajaratnam, all those years. Yeah.
We all have these godmothers in our lives, either the mother or the grandmother, who is always behind you with Adit and says you should do. And I really acknowledge the fact that she always said, Nallade paatitunda poradu, you need to see the bad and good so that you get to know the difference between what is good and how it is made to look good. So that is such a positive thought for a lady who comes from a generation eons before. I should say probably she's 60 and you're 11, like. And at that point of time, you would have felt, oh my God, so much of torture for the young kid, kind of, because I'm sure you were not very serious about the profession or even passion for that matter.
No, not at all. In fact, I share with my students a lot of times, like what you said about my grandmother, mentoring me, is that at that point, it was not about me taking on dance as a profession or taking it, but to be a good dancer. That was the goal, right? Not at all that I would pursue it as a career, or it was not even in it was not even under consideration at that point, either for me or for my parents or my grandmother either. But iduthindan seriya nanna panano illata vittudu, don't do this haphazard, half-hearted effort, and that's what I share with my students too. So when I say something, don't think, oh, you're a professional, I'm not going to be a professional. But that's not the point. The point is you have to learn to be the best that you can be,
And when was this real bug of getting serious bit you? Like, when did you think you should actually, kind of take it seriously? Now that you were learning dance under Swami Malay Rajaratnam Pillaji, and then before that, Dandayadapani Pillaji in Delhi and all. So, yeah, Dakshinamurti, sorry. So, when was the time that you thought, because most kids in Chennai, this is, of course, stamp brands, this is in the blood. Like, you start off and nobody asks you, do you like it? They say you just do it because I want you to do it. The parents or probably the grandmother, somebody says you do it. Before the age of 5, you're dancing, singing, kolam podrathu, katti paadrathu, everybody knows, and nobody thinks it's a talent. They think you're just like eating, breathing, like you're dancing and singing.
Yeah.
So I'm sure your household was no different. So how did this actual metamorphosis of a non-dancer, or probably I should say a non-dance liking girl, get into serious dancing scene?
Yeah, so I had my Arangetram in 1970, and then I was performing, like everybody else all over the country in India, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the learning, the dancing at that point, and also the performing. There is a certain high you get from dancing in front of people, so I enjoyed it. And then I had started college in going to college, and at that time my aunt, my mother's sister, who actually sang for me for my Arangetram, and we lived in the same house. She had just done her chartered accountancy, and so she said, oh, that in those days that was a big thing. MBA, chartered accountancy was the big glamorous career. So she said, no, go ahead and do BCom, because BCom had just been introduced in Chennai for girls in women's colleges. So she said, you should do that, and then you can do CA, and we can start a company in Chennai. So I started doing my BCom, and actually I should say I completed BCom, and in 1975, Vadyar was Rajaratnam sir was very, very generous in letting us go and learn from Kalanidhi Mami. She had just started teaching in 73, and as soon as I finished graduation from college, I went to her. And so I started my master's actually in MCom. And then halfway through that first year of MCom, I don't know, the moment I think I started Abhinayam, it just had a whole different dimension to me. I just suddenly found a voice, through dance. And I was a shy child growing up. And also in India, in those days, it was a very repressive society. You couldn't openly express yourself or say things. So I think this dance and Abhinayam particularly gave me a channel to be something other than who I was, and say things that I would not say otherwise. I couldn't say otherwise. So it just and I just said, that's it. I'm not going to do my MCom anymore. I'm done with this, and I'm going to dance. And I don't see myself behind a desk. I don't see myself working 9 to 5 in a corporate world, and that was it. And I just and I have to say that I don't know, we were silly and idealistic at that time, because I just thought, I just want to dance. I wasn't thinking of making a living. I wasn't thinking of am I going to earn money from it? Am I going to survive? No, I just wanted to dance, and that was it. And then life went on.
Now you were performing, you were with the teacher, you were learning Abhinaya with Kalanidhi Mami, simultaneously you were learning, you were, honing your skills and all the stuff. So when life changed, obviously, post-marriage, you got married and shifted to US, if I'm not wrong.
So I started learning from Kalanidhi Mami, and I call her Kantu Mami because I have a long teacher and before she became a teacher relationship. They're family friends, so my family knew her from the time she was 6 or 7 years old. So I knew her only as Kantu Mami. So anyway, so I started learning in 75, around the same time that I got engaged to my husband. He was also in Madras, and soon after I got engaged, my mother-in-law, who was a singer, also started singing for me and accompanying me, and she was my chaperone / mother-in-law / vocalist and everything. Of course, Vadyar was an amazing singer. My Vadyar, Rajaratnam sir, was like outstanding singer. But, we always had somebody to, accompany him as well. So then in 77, I got married. And then we were in India. And my husband had 2 sisters who lived in the
I would break in between. I would break in between. Was it a love marriage or an arranged marriage?
I was not arranged marriage.
Because you say he was related to you, if I'm not wrong.
He was kind of, he's my second cousin. But we've known each other since we were little
Oh,
kids.
that's good. Yeah.
So we got
So
married.
consanguineous or anything that was not those days it was not the thought.
Yeah. So
Okay.
we got married
Yeah.
in 77, and then yeah, and we were in India. We continued to live in India, and my husband's two sisters were living in the US at the time, and both of us, my husband and I, we love to travel. So we figured, oh, we have an opportunity to go to the US. Let's give it a shot and let's see. We always have Chennai, we always have home to come back, and we'll give it a shot. If we don't like it, we can always come back. So with that kind of thought, we moved to the US. Interestingly, in those days, you could apply for a sibling, a visa for a sibling, for a brother or a sister. And it took about 2 years since the day, since she applied. It took us 2 years to get our visa. In those 2 years, our life had completely changed in Chennai. My dancing career was picking up, and Harish, my husband, was very involved with Kalanidhi Mami, another friend of mine, Anuradha Jagannathan, also Vadyar student. Her husband, Jaggu, and Harish were helping Mami set up Abhinay Sudha, and Mami's own sons were abroad, so they were like her foster sons, helping her with all the administration and setting up and all other details, with regard to Abhinay Sudha, her organization. So we were quite actively involved with Mami, with dance, and both of us. And really, by the time the visa came, we didn't want to come. We didn't want to come to the US. We were like, it seems pretty hunky-dory here. Why should we move? And why should we change anything now? But then we thought, since she had taken the trouble to apply for a visa, at least it should be, as a courtesy, we should come at least and give it a shot. And if we can always go back home. So that's how we ended up in America in 1981. And we had to come by a certain date in order to get our visa stamped. So we both came here together, actually. It's not that he was here and I joined him. We actually both came together and got our green cards at the same time. Yeah. That's how the transition took place.
Now that you started your journey in US, now you had the option of just performing, or because a new country, a new place, a new vocabulary, new style of living, so many things put together in one. How did you, surpass all that and start this Aparna?
Yeah. So as I said, I came here in 1981, but because we were there and quite actively involved, I had a bunch of performances lined up. Kalanidhi Mami was doing a tour of Delhi and Bombay with Ashtavidanaika. And then my Vadyar was choreographing a piece to commemorate Subramanya Bharati's 100th birthday. He developed a whole margam using Bharatiyar's compositions, and I was doing the Varnam in that program called Bharatnatyam Bharati. And then I was also performing at the Navaratri Mandapam in Trivandrum. So all this had already been fixed, but we had no option but to come here to get our visa stamped, as I said before. So I came here, literally spent 5 weeks or so, and went back to India. And then I didn't come back for another 6 months till March of 1982. And when I moved here, of course, I had no idea, what I was going to do here. As I said, quite, I would probably say delusional at that point, maybe. And then I came here, and very quickly I knew that, it's not going to be like India in terms of performances and all of that. But also, I did not have any intention of teaching or any such thing, because I had never taught in India. I had only been a performer. So I had no intentions of doing that either. But I knew that if I did not teach, what would I do? I would have to go work in the corporate world, which I didn't want to do. And the other thing was, we came to Irvine in Southern California. My sister-in-law was living here at that time. And so we kind of ended up here from Chennai directly to Irvine. And because the community here, which was very, very small compared to what it is today, knew that I was coming. And so there were a bunch of young girls ranging in age from 6 to about 12, waiting for me to come and start teaching, because there was nobody teaching here at that time. And so they were like, oh, so your sister-in-law is coming. She's a dancer, so she can teach our children, So literally, I mean, kind of a class was already waiting for me when I arrived here in 1982. So I kind of started teaching in April of that year, and with just about maybe 10 students. And then it's all word of mouth. And slowly the community, the diaspora has grown, so much that particularly in Irvine, which was actually, when we came almost 40 or 38 years ago, it was considered the boondocks. Like, we were far away from the Indian community. So I would go and teach about 25, 30 miles from here in a couple of other cities where there was a large Indian population. And then I would come back to Irvine. It was like my refuge. I would come running, and everybody was like, why are you living so far away? Why are you staying in the boondocks? But now Irvine has become the hub of the Indian community. It's grown like crazy just in the last 10 years. And, Babu Parmeshwaran lives in Irvine, and we have Padma Kutti, who also teaches Carnatic music. And she has many, students who are doing very well in India. And there's a lot of Indian businesses and activities, and so it's become the hub. And there are some other Bharatanatyam teachers too, I hear. Yeah.
At this juncture, let me welcome Lata Sharas. Thank you, Auntie, for joining. Anita Ratnamji, thank you. You're watching. Jayanti Venkatraman, wonderful. Veena Murthy ji, yes, so many people say, very candid interview. Ramya, nice storytelling. Love the interview. Loving the interview. Okay. Nisha Smart, Lata Sharas is also here. Thank you, Auntie, for joining. So now you started off teaching, going so far, what were the initial days? What were the challenges that you had to face? Because you reluctantly started. It was not like I want to teach kind of. You were reluctant to teach, or you were more of a performer.
Yeah.
So, and a new country. What were the challenges that you faced in the initial years of your career when you started to teach?
Many challenges, but I have to say one thing though. So I told you how my grandmother Babushka was such a integral part of my journey. And so when I started teaching and when I moved here in 1982, she was 70 plus, I don't know, late 70s. She came here in 82. And it's just by coincidence, the first class I ever taught, she was here, in California. And when she saw me teach, she was like, I'll say in Tamil and then I'll translate it. And she said, இவாளுக்கெல்லாம் சொல்லி கொடுத்து நீ எங்க உருப்பட போற, what are you going to do teaching all these people? I don't see you going very far with this, but I think I was also not really known for my patience. So I think she was thinking, how the heck is she going to have the patience to, nurture and teach these children who may be of Indian origin, but are born and raised in this country, who have very limited access, particularly in those days, right? Today, it's different completely. I had done my adavas about almost 20 years before that. I didn't even remember the series, how to do the adavas, which adava goes before which, I didn't remember anything. So when I started teaching, and I was telling my students that there was no WhatsApp, there was no Facebook, there was no, FaceTime, I meant, or I couldn't just Skype, or I couldn't even to call, like it was so expensive, and we were new immigrants trying to, get, collect, I mean, have some money to start our lives here. So we had to be very, very careful. Even to make a phone call, we had to budget for it, okay, $10 for a phone call this month or whatever in those days. And, it was expensive. It used to cost $1 or a minute or something like that. So it's not like I could just pick up the phone and say, Vadyar, inda vadavu artha enna adavu. I couldn't ask him, right? So I just have to figure out for myself. And I had a few books at that time, and there was no Google that I could go on the internet and search. So I kind of tried to figure out, okay, in terms of their understanding, right? Okay, Tatadavu is the beginning, and then Natadavu, then slowly you add the hands, and slowly you do one hasta only, and then you teach them to combine 2 hastas, and then combine 3 hastas, and how to transition, and that's a lot of mind-body connection required, for that. So I really had to structure the curriculum for my students, just by trial and error, and just figuring it out. I don't know whether it's right or wrong, or if that's the way I was taught, but it just is some pattern that I figured that even today we follow that pattern.
Now this went on, this trial and error kept going, and then you started teaching. What were the initial, were there any setbacks? Were there any, ayyo, idu mudiyadu, let me stop everything and go back? And the mariyal edavudhu ninchingla, epodavudhu did you feel, oh my God, what am I doing? Boring, or enna pannittirukken? No, why am I even doing this? And the mariyal thoughts I'm sure you would have got, but then today if you share it, it makes sense. Those days you couldn't say that.
Yeah. But I don't know. I mean, I'm sure I did. And also, we couldn't travel to India every year either. After I came back here in 82, the next trip to India was in 85. So 3 years it was before I came back to India. Of course, my Vadyar came in 85. We did my first tour of the US. We did about 23 performances. My Vadyar came here at that time, and with the orchestra. And Mami also used to come off and on every couple of years. So she would definitely come and spend 10 days with me. And I would learn from her. My students would learn from her. And a couple of my students went to India in the summer and learned from Vadyar in Chennai, if they had family in Chennai, So I don't remember thinking, oh my God, I want to go back. Maybe I did, but I don't recall it at this time. And then, slowly the student thing started with 10, and I didn't advertise or anything. It just, by word of mouth, it grew. And then, there's been a standard, so many students every year that, we've had for now last 20 years, I would say, because it's been over 38 years since I started teaching here. So.
When was the first time that you thought, now it is very serious, let me think, this is getting serious and I need to plan a production on an annual basis, like you always have? When the kids join, they look forward for a performance. And before that you were performing solo, and now that you have a group of students, they may be bad, they may be average, they need to be put on stage, because that is one of the motivating factors for the parents as well as the kid to learn further. Yeah. What was your first performance, and what was the production that you choreographed? What did you do? Did you do a margam with them, or did you, create something for them?
No. So what you say is very true. But having learned from such amazing teachers, and also coming from the background that I do in Chennai, as we talked about, being the best that you can be, I always pushed my kids, to be the best that they can be. And part of it is also, the dance is a performing art. It's not something that you come to class for 1 hour a week and you can learn. I tell them, we all, at some point, I was in dance class 6 days a week, right? Every day, either with Mami or with Vadyar. And also, so much we learned through osmosis. Living in Chennai, you heard music. Even if you didn't go to a kacheri, there would be music blaring in my neighbor's house. Kartala, 5 o'clock, they'll put the Suprapadam on loud, and so you grew up with a lot of it, even if you didn't make the effort. But here, that is not available, first of all. And secondly, the student population is very diverse, right? Not all my students were South Indian. There were so many other, people from Maharashtra, people from North India, from every part of India. And so it was, I at one point, I thought, how can they learn and grow if they don't see? And nobody was bringing any dance. There was an organization here to bring Carnatic music, and they used to have anywhere from 5 to 6 performances, which is now grown to 20 performances a year. But dance, nobody was doing, because dance is a little bit more involved. You have to get a proper auditorium. You need to get, it's more expensive. Artists, you have to pay them more. It's a bigger group, and so on and so forth. So, in 1989, my husband and I, we started a non-profit organization with the intention of bringing classical dance to LA areas, to Southern California. Not just Bharatanatyam, but all forms. We presented everybody: Odissi, Kathak, even Satriya dance, and even contemporary. And we've presented everybody over 50 performances in the last, we just completed 30 years. So we started that as an extra, to provide the kids a complete education as much as we can, living so far away from India. But my first production was in 1985. I look back and I think, really seriously, like, I had just started teaching in 82, and I think, what was I thinking? But we did the temple was being built in LA, in Malibu, the Venkateshwara Balaji temple, and they wanted us to do a fundraiser. So we had, as you said, with the community, all the kids involved. It was called Krishnarpanam, and it was all songs, dedicated to Krishna, in different languages and so forth. And I remember the night before, we had a dress rehearsal at the theater. We were using recorded music. We didn't have access to musicians at that time. And oh my God, it was a disaster. The music would come on, the kids wouldn't come on. The kids would come and the music wouldn't come on. And after about 3 hours of this, or 4 hours, I don't remember, some of the parents got really nervous. They were like, oh my God, what happens tomorrow, in front of the audience? People are going to throw rotten tomatoes at us. This is ridiculous. But there is no option. It's already been advertised. Tickets have been sold. So we just have to go with it, But just miraculously, and I mean, obviously Krishna was there. Everything went like clockwork. Everything. The kids all did what they had to do. The music came on and everything happened. I certainly will not take credit for that. Of course, if I look back at the video, I would be thinking, wow, what was the standard, right? After only a few years of teaching, the standard obviously cannot be very good. But one thing that I'm, proud of in the last 30 years or whatever, me and a few others who have been teaching in Southern California have raised the level, the standard of dancing, right? So what we did 30 years ago, we can't do today. We cannot do today. The level is much, even the kids who are having Arangetram, I tell them, hey, if you had Arangetram 30 years ago, you could have maybe gotten away with this, but now, no, you got to raise your level, you got to up your ante. So, you know, in any new environment, right, when you're starting in a new place where there is no history, it will start at a certain level, but then slowly through, activities like exposing them to dance performances and taking them to India to see performances, and then to performing, like you said, touring, performing, practicing, because of that. All that helps in raising the standard and the level of the dance in the community.
Now, there was obviously your Indian trips were there, your Indian students who were in your academy were there, you had started productions and all that stuff. What was it to teach, the way, the thought process that you derived from your own experience, the way you learned from Vadhyar to you teaching to students who have never been exposed to Indian art form? You grew up amidst culture, you grew up with all Supravatam, Kolam, to Sangeetam, to... I've read somewhere that in your Arangitram, Radha Vishwanath sang a piece so that you could... MS Amma's daughter sang a piece along with Vadhyar so that you could do...
I didn't dance to it, but she, my Vadhyar, he came to support Ramya Pillai as well, Varu Ramya Pillai. So he had sung for Radha Vishwanathan and Anandi Amma's Arangetram. So when Radha Vishwanathan came to my Arangetram and she saw Vadhyar, she kind of remembered her own Arangetram, and she said, oh, can I sing the Jayasutta prayer with you, ask my Vadhyar. So she sat next to Vadhyar and sang the prayer alone, just the prayer alone. And of course, after that, Vadhyar and my aunts, two of them sang. Yeah. Teaching in the US is very, very different and very, very challenging because, like I said, the kids have, other than the 1 hour they spend with us, they live in a different planet, when they go home, literally. There are a lot of kids who now in the last 15 years are learning music, Carnatic music. But as I said, my student population is very diverse, from Kashmir to Sri Lanka and from Bengal to Maharashtra. Every state is represented. So it's very, you cannot assume that they listen to Carnatic music or they have musical sensibility, or they understand the stories, or they understand the cultural nuances. You can't assume all those things, and they don't understand the language either. And even for their Arangetram, I insist there should be minimum 4 languages in their repertoire. You can't just do all Tamil or all Kannada or all Telugu. No, they have to they should hear different languages, So, we learned compositions in all the languages from Kalanidhi Mami, right? She would break it down and explain every word, the word-to-word meaning as well as the gist, right? So that's how I do it. I break it down, break it down, break it down. It's like peeling, an onion. You have to peel layers of it and literally spoon feed it to them. Up to a point. And then I tell them after a point, as we all did, it's what you bring to the art form, right? That's what makes the difference. I can only, as any teacher, can only give so much, right? Maybe only 50%. If you're lucky, 60%. After that, the 40% you have to bring. That is your effort, your initiative that you have to bring to your dance.
I can relate very well to what you're saying because I've been teaching on Skypes to various students across the world, and one of my first initial Skype Arangetrams where I taught the entire Margam for the girl was on Skype. She was from Louisville, and this was in 2013. So she had to be awake one night, and I had to be awake one night. That was the barter system. I said, see, I will not be awake all the time. So you need to sacrifice, I will sacrifice. So one of the days I was teaching her Madhura Nagarilo, and I said, Madhura, I just did this. She said, excuse me, wait, you have to look from bottom to top or top to bottom? I said, oh, I have to start from there. That was when I realized, okay, so these, in India, I don't have to say it to my student. It is understood. The moment, probably the second or the third time, she would follow what I do. But then with that student, being from whether Rama is a male to Sita is a female to they have love, to teach shyness, to teach bhakti. That was the difficult thing. I said, and when we have the tradition of going to your Vadyar, falling prostrate for your Vadyar, falling at feet. Why do you have to fall at your teacher's feet? They would giggle. They would find it so funny. So the thought process of teaching them bhakti and the Vekam was very, very difficult. So when you started, and the culture, I understand, because they're exposed, apart from your 1 hour of your class per week, once they go back home, they have to, the reminiscence happens probably once they're back the next week itself, the revision or whatever. Some promptly come back only to do here and never to do it throughout the week.
Yeah.
How did you battle? What was your, how did you study? Did you ever think, I would make them dancers, or did you like, okay, in the varam vanditruka, so let me teach? Andamari ponela, illa, no, I have to sculpt them. I have to make them as dancers. I should have a group. Andamari illa, ninge edavadhu or plan potela. How was it?
So, the thing is that, as you say, the battle goes on even to this day. It never ends, for one thing. But, when I came here, I think when I kind of semi gave up my career as a performer, because I was performing, only when I came to India, and then I was performing on tour in the US and in Europe and Asia, but it was not like I was a full-time performer. I was also a teacher. And I think I kind of, like my mother, like all mothers, vicariously took on this thing that every student of mine should be this amazing dancer, and I would break my back trying to give them everything and anything I had to see how I can open their eyes and inspire them and motivate them. And I did everything I could to do to get them, and of course you'd be disappointed time and time again, because most of them are not looking at it as a career. And I understand, because living here, they don't see how they can pursue it, because most of this generation now in the world, across the world, right, they all have to make a living. And they think, how am I going to make a living as a dancer, And as a teacher, I don't speak Tamil fluently, or I don't speak Tamil at all, or I don't speak an Indian language fluently, and I don't know all these things. I don't have access. I don't sing, because I sing and teach. I don't use recordings to teach. So how is it possible for me to pursue a career? So they can't see that. So I would push them, and then up to a point they will go on to college and become amazing lawyers and engineers and doctors and all of that. And particularly some of the kids that are so naturally talented, they're sensitive, they love dance, and I would be like, wow, this kid would make such a wonderful dancer, and then they'll just quit and go and do something else. And I would be like, so heartbroken. My heart has been broken several times. And then slowly now in my old age, I'm learning to be detached and not, invest so much emotionally in all the children, but just give my best and say, whatever happens. Don't have too many expectations, because that for sure is going to make you disappointed, so just let it be, but give your best. Obviously as I said before, coming from Mami and Badya's lineage and all, we cannot not give our best. We cannot go for the mediocre. We can't reach for the mediocre. We have to reach for the top, and we don't know where we'll fall. But at least we should be reaching up high, right?
At this juncture, Sheshikamal Iyengar has joined us from Canada. Sheshikamal says, met your mom in 1992 at my cousin's wedding. You resemble your mom so much.
Thank you.
And Lata Shares says, this is so true. Ramya cared and devoted her attention loud to all her students alike, one of the very best.
Thank you.
So now you start, as you said, but today's kids are far more career oriented. They can understand, of course, if they can think of becoming dancers in India, definitely they can think of becoming dancers abroad because they are more in demand. I always feel from any part of the world, Indian arts, yoga, or anything has been received so well. And they are the ones, in fact, they earn, or rather I should say, that is one of the sought after professions of late. Unlike before, probably 90s, no, 2000s. Today's like kids, like they know that there will be worship, that the celebrity status of a dancer is far more outreached rather than 30 years before. It took time for you. There was no social media. Nobody knew if you jungle mein more nacha kisne dekha kind of. You had to, make sure that everybody sees you and you perform, and then only if it comes in the paper, probably because of the colorful costumes or something out of the blue, something different. But today it is not like that. Whether you dance good, average, better, best, you're there in the social media. You've been discussed. Your snippets are shared across. Your video promos are going around. You dance one day, but your things are talking for 10 more days. All this is happening. So in today's world, probably the kids know that what they want or what they can get if they pursue a career in dance. How many students on an average from your class really make it up on the larger side of the spectrum where they say, okay, now I would want to be a dancer? How many of them every year, or how often is it?
See, also, I think, first of all, if your parent is an artist, right, then there is a role model. Then you think, for instance, my son is training to be a musician, but I don't have daughters and I didn't teach my sons dance, for some reason. But for an average parent, they can't see how the child can be, because they don't know the way to navigate through this dance world or music world or negotiate, unless the student or the person is so committed and so passionate, they're prepared to do anything, right? Otherwise they don't have the support system to pursue a career in dance or music, so that is a challenge. Even if they want to, they don't know how to, right? And unless they receive the support of the parents, and the parents don't know, and they're like, just go and be an engineer or a software engineer or a doctor or whatever. It's safe, you'll have a good income, you'll have a good life, just go for it, so you kind of fall into that thing. Like I said, I also thought at one point, okay, I don't know if I want to do CA, but maybe I'll do an MBA, because MBA was very glamorous in those days, in the 70s. And so I thought, oh, I want to do my MBA. Maybe I want to go to the US and study. And, and then after a while I was like, no, thank God I didn't pursue that, But I guess there's one thing called whatever your destiny is. And then that, of course, is always there. But it's very hard. I have 3 of my students who are, pursuing not dance as a performer, but one of my students, my first batch of students, she did her doctorate in critical dance studies. And she's a PhD, and she's teaching in the university here, but she's not teaching Bharatanatyam, more, I would say they do a lot of contemporary using the Bharatanatyam vocabulary, but not traditional Bharatanatyam, There are no universities, at least locally, that offer Bharatanatyam as a course in the university. They may ask you to come and do a master class here and there. And at UC Irvine, which is the University of California, campus right here in my city, they used to offer one semester a year world dance. And so I used to go and teach, not every year, but every few years. They'll offer different things. They'll offer flamenco, West African dance, Korean dance, and stuff. And I used to go teach ever so often, but that has been discontinued. So there is hardly any regular semester course in Bharatanatyam or even Indian dance. So only master classes and stuff like that. My other student, also one of my early, my first batch, she was a fully trained physiotherapist who had a lucrative career as a physical therapist, and at 30 years of age just decided, I don't see myself wearing scrubs anymore, I'm not going to do that anymore, and she quit. And now she's working in a performing arts center in Texas, where she curates performances and educational programs through the arts. And so they're related to the arts, but they're not performing, but they all are performing with their own companies, but not a full-time solo career. And then I have another student who's my assistant. She's also a very well-trained Carnatic musician, so she sings as well. So she teaches all my junior classes and intermediate classes. Like Padi she can sing Tilana, Jataswaram and all. She'll sing and teach them. So that works out. I like them to sing and teach rather than use recordings, preferably. Yeah.
Now, it's become more like a 6-year graduation course. நீங்க இன்னைக்கு கிளாஸ்க்கு சேர்ந்தீங்கன்னா 6 years ஆன உடனே you will be doing your அரங்கேற்றம். that will be the end of your career, because the Indian parents would want, என் குழந்தையும் இந்தியன் ட்ரெடிஷன் பத்தி சொல்லி கொடுக்கறதுக்கு வீட்டுக்குள்ள எங்களுக்கு சொல்லி கொடுக்க தெரியாது. ஸோ அதனாலதான் போய் டீச்சர் கிட்ட போனா ஏதோ ஸ்டோரியோ மைத்தாலஜி ஏதோ ஒன்று போட்டு கொடுத்து சொல்லி கொடுத்து ஏதோ ஒன்று பண்ணி நாமளும் ஸ்டேட்டஸ்க்கோ ஒரு ஆடி வைக்கலாம். அந்த மாதிரி சில பேர் பார்க்கலாம். சில பேர் it is like, no, I want my daughter to be in touch with roots until they would put them to dance. So I'm sure you would get mixed breed of students to do both. Who say, okay, 6 years course, like இன்னைக்கு சேர்ந்தீங்கன்னா, however bad or good, after 6 years you will also have high tea and samosa on your arangetram day, and you will be dancing in your spot, and the other spot, like there will be another kid dancing in the same spot. In the Mari, do you also have these kind of people, or it's like I will receive every kid in a way that I will see every kid that comes to my class as a dancer tomorrow, but then how much of insistence from your side goes into the making of a dancer?
So
not falling into this criteria.
So I used to, not all the time, but occasionally a parent would call and say, I want to enroll my daughter in your dance class. So, she's 6 years old or whatever. When will she finish? So I used to say, I don't know, because I myself have not finished. So I don't know when your daughter will finish. I'm still learning. So I don't, in some things, I mean, obviously, we have to adapt and grow and adjust to the new circumstances, the environment we are in. But certain things, I'm pretty old-fashioned and try to stick to my roots. In the sense, I don't do 6 years, 8 years, no guarantee of anything, I just... we observe the children as they grow, if they're doing well, if they're really motivated, if they have good work ethic, they practice regularly and everything, and they show a certain maturity, right? Abhinayamlam pananona, it's not easy if the kids does not have the ability to understand and emote, to some extent at least, So it could be 6 years, exceptional, those are the exceptions. But it would be 8 years, it would be 10 years sometimes. Depends. I mean, if you ask me, are all the arangetrams great? No, they're not. Sometimes they'll be like, oh, she's going away to college next year, we have to do kind of thing. And, being in America and a teacher, I think... I for certain think I have a very unique job, not just to be a teacher to a student, but actually educating the parents as well, right? And creating an audience. We don't have an audience here. Unlike, you go to Mylapore Fine Arts or Krishna Gana Sabha or whatever, you have an audience. I mean, it may be a small audience, even by compared to so many other things, but you have an audience. Here, there is no audience. We have to create an audience, right? You have to educate an audience to teach them the nuances and the beauty and the intricacies of the form. They don't know. And also, like I said, they come from all over the country. Some of them have never, seen Bharatanatyam or in their life, the parents, I mean. And they would only come to Bharatanatyam because Vaijantimala Bali did it and Hemali, they've seen in the movies. Oh, they were all trained dancers and I want my daughter to be, glamorous and like them, right? That is the motivation. But I don't want to discount that either, because now Bollywood is like all over the place. I mean, it's just taken over the world. And literally, if you want your child to dance in a glamorous costume, it only takes a couple of months, right? You can enroll in a class. All these Bollywood schools have performances every year, twice a year, and within 3 months your child is up there dancing on the stage. So I am really grateful that I have families and students who are prepared to learn for 10 years or 20 years. And I have students who have been with me for 38 years, so I'm very, very thankful for that, and so you have all sorts, the Arangetram, and then that is the next day, Kapran, they won't even show up. I sometimes wonder if they even know how to spell Bharatanatyam, there are those two, but then there are also those that are, keen and learn. And so I feel a lot of the Arangetram process is also educating the parents on the I don't give in, when parents will say, oh, can we just do Tamil compositions? I said, sorry, you have to do 4 languages at least. We've come halfway across the world to the US. Why are we sticking, only Tamil, only Telugu? No, there's so much available in terms of poetry, in terms of music. There's so much available, as Bharatanatyam dancers. We should explore everything, right? Not just be so narrow-minded to say, I only want to do Tamil. And anyway, oru language theriyadu. What does it matter? They'll be like, oh, what if they don't understand? I said, they don't understand anything. Everything is Greek to them. So what does it matter, So just I will teach it to them. Don't worry, So
And that's well said. That's really well said. So anyway, and I see, we I had one incident where the mother said, "Nah, in Kodandika Sunday, enne uti, I will give her oil bath with chika pudi and all." But the kid doesn't know a bit in Tamil. I get my Chandrika soap all the way from India, and I use only Chandrika soap in the US. But then my kid will say Ugravannu for nail polish, but then she cannot say a word in English, in Tamil. So in the Mariella we have seen. So I am sure you would have had wonderful share of hilarious moments in connection to these kind of anecdotes with parents. In fact, one of the demands was when I did from Kentucky, I did one Arangetram. The girl was a Gujarati. She wanted a Gujarati Varnam. So I said, oh, it was a job for me. I said, okay, fine, we'll choreograph a Meera Bhajan formatted into a Varnam pattern with Trikala chutneys put in between. And I said, yes, I don't know about the repeat value, but for sure it will be very enthralling and captivating for the Gujarati audience, Gujo audience. At the same time, a lot of job for me to comprehend that in Tamil and put it back to thinking in English and explain it to the kid. A Gujarati kid who cannot speak Gujarati, put her thought process into English, and then bring out the Abhinayam to a Gujarati song sung by a Tamil singer. Oh, so much of job. I could understand how the whole process was hilarious as well as very much learning, I would say. So any kind of hilarious moments in this regard?
Don't give in to that at all. I don't give in. I said Tamil Varnam, it has to be a traditional Padavarnam. No option. There is no option with that. And originally, like opening prayer, we used to do different things. My Reggie George used to sing for me for about 10 years, and he would bring different Ganapati, Ganesha songs. And then the parents started requesting, oh, can we sing this one? Can we sing that one? Can we do a Dasarnama? Can we sing one song from this one? I mean, for opening prayer, and then the closing also, Mangalam also. Then after a point, it just went out of control, So I said, no. It's my school tradition is Jayasutta, adha enga Vadyar paduvar, and Ramya Pillai used to sing. So that is it. No questions. It's just set. So the Mangalam also Bhavamana, there is a color to it. It adds a certain charm to the performance. So the beginning and end, no options. You cannot change it. I do what, this is our tradition, school tradition, and we're going to do this. Varnam, Padavarnam. The other things, I always add one item for sure from the child's family background, right? Whether it's, like you said, whether it's Gujarati or Marathi. And then I have had Christian students, I've had Muslim students, and then Jain, of course. So we make sure we do something that represents, because the audience will be mostly from that community, so they feel happy, when they hear a Jain song about one of their gurus, then they feel like, wow, the whole Arangetram was worth it, And but one time I remember I had a Sardarni student, and she was an amazing, committed, hardworking student whose mother herself had never been to India. Her mother had never been to India. This kid has never been to India, even to this day. And but they enrolled in Bharatanatyam classes. And but the child was a perfectionist and a hardworking, and she was a singer. So Tamil Varnala, she'll sing. I mean, not sing, but she'll understand. So actually, during her Arangetram, my musician messed up and sang the wrong line. Correcta, she knew to adapt and do the abhinayam that was apt to the words he was singing. She knew the song enough to know, okay, this is what he's singing and this is what I need to do, But the most interesting thing was her mother had asked me, can we do something from Punjabi, one of the Punjabi Punjabi song. I said, okay, bring something which has the quality of a padam or a we can't do Bhangra songs in Bharatanatyam, but maybe something which has some meat and masala to it, So she brought me a song from Heer Ranjha, where she's pining for the lover who's, that kind of fits into the mold of a padam and all. So we started choreographing that piece. Halfway through the piece, she said, all the Punjabi stories are all tragic, with the guy dying and this. She said, I don't want to do this. I don't want the Arangetram to be this sad, morose, tragic ending and all. So let's just skip it. I don't want to do this. So we scrapped that whole thing, and I did a Sufi song, a song, I think Kabir or something, and it was a beautiful, beautiful song. And actually, last 2 years ago, one of my Kashmiri students had Arangetram, and Shrikant, you might know, he sings for me. And so originally they had told me that one of the ladies from their community would sing that song, Kashmiri song. So I said, fine, but the last minute some issue came up, and so then Shrikant had to learn. And he said, oh my God, this is like my teeth are going to fall out by the time I start pronouncing all these words. They're so difficult. But he worked so hard. He's so good at any language I give him, he'll master it, And he sang so well that the whole Kashmiri community that was present there for the Arangetram wanted a recording of him singing. They were like, we've never heard it sing like this. And he's not even a Kashmiri, and so they all wanted a recording for them to listen to at home. So, all of us as teachers or performers, we have interesting experiences, challenges, and you wonder how you're going to get over it, but you do,
How difficult or how easy was it to teach the lover experiencing the pangs of separation for the girls who would say, check him, go for the next one, kind of thought process to tell, no, you're waiting, he hasn't come. You send the cuckoo, then you send the pigeon, and you write, and palum, chorum, all that, how do you teach? How do you make them understand that this is, and that too, you're teaching for the generation today, a story which is probably 300 or 200 years old thought process where they say one man and one woman kind of thing. And she's okay if she's going somewhere, but then she's waiting for him and she's feeling the pangs of separation. How do you teach this thought process to your kids?
So it's very interesting. Couple of things. One is, how we grew up watching Indian movies in those days, right? In the 60s and 70s. And love was about that little glance, and that little smile. And that was it, And I grew up on that as well. And to me, the beauty was in the subtlety and in the suggestiveness, right? Even in Bharatanatyam. So I'm sure in India also it's the same today, but I'm talking even 20 years ago. Children here, they lose their naivete and their innocence very early in life, and then they become jaded, and then there is no charm to a lot of the things. We grew up innocent to a large extent, I feel, and so the children. So I remember I was teaching this student of mine. She was probably 20, 22 years old. I was teaching Idene Sakhi, the Javali, and I was saying, okay, you open the door and this, this hunk is there and your heart starts pounding, and then she was like, I don't know. I don't know how to feel like that. I was like, hello, you should be feeling that at least half a dozen times a day. You're 22 years old. You don't feel that, that heart pounding when you see somebody who's attractive. I don't feel that, auntie. So I said, I can feel it, and I've worked for 25 years or something, So it is hard. It is a challenge to teach them certain things that they cannot relate to because it's not part of their upbringing, part of their culture, and they've never seen it. And even in Indian movies, which they see now, because of Netflix and all of that, I was just saying, how can you have a love song with the couple and then 50 people behind dancing? Where is the romance there, right? There in those days there was so
benefit of dancing for the extras or dancing for your own self or dancing for your lover. It's like dancing for the world.
There is no subtlety, there is no charm, and that was the beauty. So I have to be very selective in what I teach who. I have to kind of know what each child is capable of and how far I can push them. I can't just randomly. I mean, sometimes I would do the crazy stuff of picking something which I afterwards I think, what was I thinking? I think, oh, I know, I think I can get this kid to do this. But sometimes I have to be smart about that, And also nowadays I'm picking even, I personally feel that padams and javalis and all of those human emotions, right, are universal and timeless, right? Yesterday I was teaching Yahi Madhava to one of my students, and we were talking about, in the 12th century, he wrote about adultery and infidelity, and it's not any different today. Even today we have it. So,
only that.
800 years later, we're in the same place. It's not any different. And as a woman, do you feel sad and hurt and disappointed? Yes. Do you feel angry and upset? You say, get lost? Yes, we still are feeling the same and saying the same things. So a lot of the things, even though the world is changing, and I mean, has changed a lot, but still certain things remain the same, right? Human emotions, situations don't change that much. And it doesn't matter whether you're Greek or American or white or Japanese or Indian. We all have the same emotions, same situations, same challenges,
Yeah, but then your thought process in the language also thinks. If you are comprehending that language in English, like I'm very angry, the way Westerners depict to, I'm very angry to Indian depiction of the anger, to the Sringaram of usages of when I was teaching Matada Bharadenu to one of my students, that brings me on. So I was like, Matada, and she started giggling. I said, when you go to your man and you start doing this, he thinks I'm mad. I said, no. The genre of thought, this is the grammar of dance. This, when you put it across, and when you are shy, the concept of shyness. I said, why? If he's not there, there is next. There is someone else. I said, no. Think. That was when she said we stay in a dual culture where we are screaming at the girl if she's talking to the neighbor guy, but then we are inviting the whole world to see what she does in the bedroom, kind of, sitting in the Shringaram, Sambhoga Shringaram or Ati. So I said, see, that is what the classism is all about. You, like, if you go to Japanese dance, or you go to Western dance, you go to ballet, or you go to any other dance form, classical form itself is something which you are learning from yesterday, something from yesterday you learn today to present it for tomorrow. So we are preserving the tradition, and that thought process was like, even Indian students, even today's Indian kids, it's the same thought that goes into their mind, like, why? And I say, see, that is what, when you have come, Aramandile ukandi ye aadno na, adukku answer kadiyadu. Why do you think I can always stand up and jump and do na? Why only mudras? You can do anything and get away. And so I always connect it with emojis that we are using off late. So for everything we have an emoji. So similarly, those emojis are expressions that you portray. So can you remember a couple of incidents when you were performing, or when you're teaching, or when you're rehearsing, some funny anecdotes to share with?
Talking about Abhinayam, in 1993, I think, I performed, I was in Montreal, I performed Muguduchi. And so Reggie, was singing for me at that time. So we finished the performance, and this lady came up from the audience and told me, oh my God, that Muguduchi was so touching. I had tears in my eyes, and I was really moved. So Reggie and I looked at each other. We were so happy because I would always do padams and javlis, and in those days, not many people in America were doing it, but I love padams and javlis, so I used to always do them. And so for a moment, we were so happy. We were kind of looking at each other and saying, wow, she got it, And then the next minute she said, அதுல கொஞ்சம் ஜத்தி இத்தி போட்டிருந்தா இன்னும் நன்னா இருந்திருக்கும். We were like, oh my God. So a moment high, and the next minute we felt like dropped, and we were like, what the heck? She probably didn't understand anything we were doing. So I can, of course, obviously we can't do it everywhere in America. Most of the time we're performing sometimes outdoor venues, sometimes we're only given like 25 minutes to 45 minutes, and in festivals or special events. So on the madri, that kind of events, we can't do padams and javalis or thing. But obviously the abhinayam, the other thing I feel is that nritya and abhinayam are not exclusive of each other, right? There is abhinayam and nritya, and there is talam and rhythm in abhinayam. So even if you're doing alaripu, you have to bring a certain emotional content to it, not just be doing it like you're in a gym and doing an aerobic class, right? So there is that emotional content is what is so special about Indian dance. So I feel like it should be there everywhere. Even in Jataswaram, if you do this hand like this, but if you do that, it adds. Overdo panakudadu, obviously, but balanced, if you can bring your heart to what you do, I think it looks different for sure,
what is the way you lure your students to saying, oh, idu oru arangetram mattumiya? They see, in India they look forward for so many things, probably performances, probably they look forward for their own individual solos, probably in school or small get-togethers, like how it happens there, Diwali, Sankranti, or whatever. How do you lure your students to learn more, master more? Because idu panna idu kadikkum or that concept is more in India, so they know, oh, this time if we are not on stage, if only if we dance we get to dance, if we learn well we are put on stage so that we get to perform.
Yeah.
But then there it is little difficult. Then how do you lure the student to do that?
So when I did my productions, at one point I was doing it quite a bit, not so much now. But at that point, you had to have your arangetram to be dancing in the company. You cannot dance as a part of a production if you've not had your arangetram. Because arangetram, they work with me for about 2 years, one-on-one. And 2 times a week, and then sometimes 3 times a week. So that the 2 to 18 months to 24 months that they spend preparing for their arangetram, the improvement is about 300%, I would say. You won't even recognize them from when they started. To take off to do an arangetram, you have to, the base level has to be a certain, you cannot be at the bottom. You can't be in first grade and hope to be do your graduate, right? You have to be at least in 6th grade or 7th grade, then we can push you up to a certain level. So that they cannot they cannot participate not only in productions, but also when we have performances, in the museums or festivals or universities or whatever. They cannot dance unless you've had your arangetram. And arangetramukku appuram they have to come to class regularly. If you don't come to class regularly, you cannot perform. You have to be in practice, right? And you have mentally and physically, you have to be in shape and tuned in to it. So some, like, couple of events we get, like we do an annual performance for this event called Festival of Children, where it's basically all the charities that raise money for children's thing gather together, and they host series of performances every weekend in September. So we've been part of that for the last 10 years or more, actually. So anga vandu, they don't pay us anything, but they just showcase different cultures. So every half an hour there'll be a different performance. So anga, I'll have the best of the little ones perform. So they look forward to performing there. And it's in a mall, and they set up stages in different places within the mall. And usually there are like 400 people. It's packed. So and very responsive and very supportive audience, and completely non-Indian audience. So it's very nice for the kids to go perform there. So as they go higher up, they will look forward to that. So they perform there. But actually, I shouldn't say thanks, but because of COVID, we have our annual day once a year. In the last 10 years, before that, it wasn't every year. Because it's a lot of work here. We don't have the support system and facilities like in India. Everything we have to do ourselves. So it's very hard. So what we used to do every other year, or, things like that. But like you said, last few, maybe 10 years, the kids have been asking, when is Samarpan? That's our annual performance. When is Samarpan? When is Samarpan? So the parents and the families look forward to it. And also it's a good occasion for all the families and the kids and all. So we have an after party. I arrange a pizza party for them after the event. So they all hang out together. So it's a nice gathering of the community, So we couldn't have it this year because of COVID. So from August, every week we've been posting one child's video on our Facebook page. So we pick we watch in class who are the kids who are working hard, who are practicing regularly, like I said before, and who have a good work ethic, who are motivated. And then we feature them every Friday, on our Facebook page. So that has been a big motivator. So now all the kids want to be on the Facebook page. So they've all been saying, "Oh, auntie, can I practice this and show you? What can I do?" And so, we have to find different ways to keep them motivated. I don't know. Do you get opportunities for the little ones to perform over there a lot? Illalla?
Yes. Annavari, let's see, we have Chinnada Utsava. We ourselves, the academy, we have Udbhava Bhushana, a festival dedicated to younger children. I don't insist on Arangetram. As long as you want to be featured in the Udbhava Bhushana, you better practice. So the benchmark could be even you could be just 1 year old. But then in India, what happens is like I have classes on all 7 days of the week. And some come all 7 days. They if there is no school, they spend the entire evenings with us, and sometimes the entire weekends with us.
Wow.
Afternoon 2 to 1, evening 7:30, and some parents are like, "I want my daughter to be a dancer like you," kind of. They would come with that thought. Sometimes the parent would want the daughter to be a dancer, but the kid never wants to be a dancer. So we get to know, and I say, "Please don't try me. Neither I would want to try you. If you think try Pandla, please go to some other class where you are on a trial basis." And I don't entertain students who come saying, weekly 2 days or activity agato, or where they will just get exposed to culture or whatever. Because this is not the trial, I would say. And I insist the parents have to watch. It is not like, the father says, "Ayu, it's mother's job." I will not take all that. I say, even the father has to come.
Yeah.
It's better you learn and you understand it.
We invest so much in them.
It cannot be just mother always ferrying the kid to the dance class and father only takes in pride when he clicks pictures on one day and thinks, "Oh, I didn't understand." I said, "Why do you think, or why do you say you didn't understand? Did you ever make an attempt?" For this, I have this anecdote which I always say. See, the entire country worships cricket. Nobody is learning right from the womb or right from the embryo stage. Nobody learns. The kid sees the father playing, and when he goes out of the house, he sees his friends playing. Father is playing with his friends. The son goes to school, they get to see when the kids are playing. So how this culture of loving and liking cricket happens, that is how you need to like Indian arts.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't develop an interest and say, at home you're always watching cricket, commentaries, cricket shows, there is so much outside available to talk about a game like that. Though our country talks about as hockey as the national game, but still we worship cricket. If this can happen, likewise can happen with respect to dance or music.
Yeah.
And how often do you get to see which channel is? No channel talks about classical arts here, except for bearing 1 or 2, which our Doordarshan has got shows which is related 11:30 in the night. How many get to see that? Stay awake and see. I used to do when I was a young kid. I was the only one in the family dancing. I didn't have any of my cousins dancing. I didn't have anybody to look up to say, "Oh my God, all these people are dancing, so let me dance." This was never the case. So what motivated me to learn dance or something? That thing, today's generation, you have YouTube, you have access to media, you have access to so many things. You can do a lot of things you can learn. So if the parents don't have a patient ear, I did. In fact, I went one step ahead. We are featuring this show for about yours is 72nd episode. So every year the kids prepare for examinations. Like we have the Karnataka Secondary Education Board, which has exams, senior, junior. Yeah, yes. Not school. Kerala, it happens with the school, but it is conducted by the Karnataka Secondary Education Board, where you can parallelly take up these exams that happen every year in May. So you have levels
related to dance.
Yeah, dance, Bharatnatyam, classical arts. Yes.
Oh.
In Karnataka, this is very even many teachers from abroad gets their students to do this. They plan it in such a way that the kids come to India and they learn.
Yeah.
So what happens? I do a mock test of each segment which is spoken. Each segment you have 2 questions to answer. Like you can pick up the question either as a guest coming over here. They talk about so many things. You don't find the answers on Google. You don't find the answers somewhere else. So you need to watch the episode. I will not be asking when was Ramya Harishankar born. I would probably ask what was the anecdote that Ramya Harishankar shared during the conversation, which was hilarious, or probably which made sense to today's generation. We spoke about so many things. So that means she or he has to watch the entire conversation. So that itself is, so the kids, along with the kids, the parents would also keep their ears and eyes open to see what is happening. So in the bargain, they are also getting educated to do this. So I said, whoever finishes this comes up with at least, we have good, I did this in 50 episodes. So when I was, 50 episodes, each episode, 2 questions, 100 marks. So if you're through and if you get more than 80, then only I'll let you take up the exams this year. So that was like the target there. That is where. And of course, we have a lot of festivals that are focused on kids here in India. அப்புறம் நாட்டியாஞ்சலிஸ் இருக்கு, நிறைய நாட்டியாஞ்சலிஸ் இருக்கு. Of course, several teachers won't know to send their kids to such things unless until they are exposed to this. But then today's Indian kids who are learning classical arts are exposed to this, where they get opportunities. And I won't stop them. You tell me, you inform me that you would perform, but just don't go impromptu and say I did and then come back to me and say this. Inform me very well. I would give you practice and then please go. Could be wedding, could be or festivities, because that is the opportunity that inhibition, shedding of the inhibition needs to go when you're dancing, put across in front of your own people.
Yeah, absolutely. And also the practice program goal in that they work.
Yes.
We also, it's all everybody, it's a human thing, right? When you have a goal, a target, then you work. Otherwise you just
that is what I keep saying. இப்போ நாங்க ஒரு டாக்டருக்கு சொல்ல மாட்டோம் இல்லையா, நீ நல்ல ஒருபடியா நீ வந்து if you learn how to operate I'll buy you stethoscope ன்னு சொல்றல இல்ல. பட் ஆனா டான்ஸ் ஸ்டூடெண்ட்க்கு சொல்றேன், நல்ல டான்ஸ் கத்துக்கினா உனக்கு டெம்பிள் ஜுவல்லரி வாங்கி கொடுப்பேன், இல்ல நல்ல டான்ஸ் பண்ணா உனக்கு குங்குரு வாங்கி தரேன். அரே, like how we will not say this to a medicine student saying that if you dance well then only, if you study well in the forearm work, right arm work, if you study then only I'll buy you a stethoscope. You cannot tell this to a dance enthusiast saying that I will buy you a gungru only if you are through with this. So likewise, and if there is a party and there are 10 people and there are students who are doing medicine, who are doing engineering, you will not say inge oru chinna operation panni kaanu solrane. But for a singer or a dancer will say inge oru chinna aadi kaatte atho oru paadi kaatte nu solrom. So that means that awareness is there, that arts are appreciated. In fact, I had an argument with one of my family groups where they said, "Ayo, itella junk, why listen to all these people?" I said, no, this is so much of information about something which you would have put the kid to learn, made her do her arangetram and everything, and that is not the end of it. You need to learn, understand beyond arts. It is a tradition that is being passed on from one generation to other generation,
and
which is
no, go ahead.
Yeah, please, tell me. I go on, otherwise I forget it.
That we talked about it briefly in the beginning as well, is that I have to tell my students' families that when I push you and I say you have to practice every day, at least the little kids at least 15-20 minutes a day, the older kids at least at least 3 times a week, 1 hour set aside and practice, or watch performances. If a YouTube, there's so much available. Go and write a little thing so I can tell you, oh, this is good, this is. So I also know how they're learning, how their eye is developing to what is good, what is not so good, and stuff like that. But they always feel that I don't know if they feel, but I assume that they feel.
Yeah, but then she'll be joining us soon. Hope you guys are enjoying the conversation that is happening right here on our page, Vishwa Nruthya Bhushana. I hope all of you are enjoying this. ask her through. Yes, we lost you in the. Yes, please continue from there.
Yeah. So no, I was saying that parents assume that oh, but my daughter is not going to be a professional like you. But that's I didn't start learning thinking I'm going to grow up and be a professional. It's a choice I made much later in my life. And then the other part of it is I tell the parents, you also have to develop a discerning eye. Only then can you be powerful mentors for your children, right? You say, oh, எனக்கு ஒண்ணும் தெரியாது, எனக்கு ஒண்ணும் தெரியாது. I don't know anything, but how do you have to learn if you want your daughter to be a good dancer or good anything. I mean, my son plays basketball and I learned by watching basketball all the nuances. I can't play, but at least I can say, oh, you should have done this or you should have done this or whatever. So if you want to support your children effectively, you have to develop an eye. Come and watch performances. We only get 4 or 5, 6 times a year if we are lucky, hardly ever. Come to performances and then come and tell me, oh, I like this or I like that, or what you did, what you learned from it. And so children cannot learn it by themselves, right? They need that input from the parents and guidance. My grandmother took it on at 60. At 60 she started learning and watching dance. I mean, learning by watching dance, so she could tell me, she'll say, எவ்வளவு தடவை வாத்தியார் உட்காருன்னு சொல்லுவார், like how many times does he have to say sit down? Can't you sit down? So things like that. So if you don't know, and we also I mean, now with so much social media options, we also send every lesson with instruction on WhatsApp with the group, for each group, whatever has been taught. So even if you're not there, you know what has been taught to the child in that class, for one thing. And we also tell them, hey, you have an option, make the child practice and record it and send it back, and we will send you feedback on what she's doing right or what she needs to work on. So we're providing many ways that we can help the child, but it has to also come from the other side, because we only see them 1 hour a week, and there's only so much we can do in that hour.
Yes. Now, what given that you can probably of late there are many teachers who are getting their students to take up the Gandharva Mahavidyalaya exams, that is also happening, affiliated to the Akhil Bharat Gandharva. I think you lost and then So the theoretical aspects, Vati, when you are saying, how do you how difficult or how to teach them
the theory? Whatever little I teach them in class, basic stuff, we see them 1 hour a week. Even with that, how to get them to Arangetram by or whatever, or a decent level of dancing by 8 years or 10 years, it's a lot of work. I tell them that, we went to class practically every day, and initially at least 3 times a week. So I said, if I taught the way my Vadyars taught me, none of my students will get anywhere. We have to ensure that they're learning. We're not just teaching them, but make sure that they're learning it, and not just, we can't allow, let them learn on, assume that they're learning, we have to ensure that they're learning. I figure that, if they're serious at a point, when they get to, if they're serious about dance after a point, then we can give them options.
Due to heavy rainfall in both the places, probably we are facing little technical issues. So I hope you understand and you stay with us as we are listening to the conversation. You are listening to the conversation with Ramya Harishankar all the way from California. So I hope you give a patient ear here.
So, as I was saying, I just, I don't spend a lot of time and energy on theory. We just teach them, hastas, asamyuta hastas, and some basic stuff, and neck movement, griva veda, shiro veda, and things stuff, and basic stuff. But other than that, after a point, I feel like if they're really serious about dance, then they can always learn all of it. With 1 hour a week, I don't want to spend half an hour on teaching them theory. They'll get nowhere. By the time they'll be ready to graduate from high school, because we do a whole margam, and then the second margam is the arangetram. So it takes a while to prepare them. Yeah, you're back.
Can you listen? Yes. I thought I lost you again in between this wonderful technical hazard that we are experiencing today because of the rains.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Did you hear what I just said? Okay.
Yes. Very much. I could hear everything. Now, what was your schedule like in pandemic?
So since it started, middle of March, they just said, okay, everything is shut down. You can't do anything. So we were just in shock for about a week. We were like, oh my God, what do we do now? And then I contacted some other friends, colleagues who also teach. And then they said, oh, we have all these options and you can try one of them. So about a week after we shut down in March, we started teaching on Zoom. So we've been teaching touch wood so far. We've not had major issues. And actually Samarla, I usually close for the summer break for about 8 weeks, because a lot of the kids go out of town, they go to India, they travel. And so we just take the time off, because there's no point in having just a few students in class. So this year, since nobody was going anywhere, the parents requested, can you please continue the classes, because the kids are just home and nobody's going anywhere. So we continued till end of July, and then we took 3 weeks off and restarted classes in late August. But I did couple of like this Zoom master classes for the university. Then I did a two-day Abhinaya workshop, introducing people from all over, from Australia, Malaysia, Canada, and the US to the Mami's style of Abhinayam, right? Kalanidhi Mami's style. I did a 2-day workshop, and post that, I have been completely anti online teaching, and I've just not done it at all. In fact, my own students who moved to university or something, I said, sorry, no class on Skype and all, not going to happen. I'm not very tech savvy, and I was like, I'm not going to deal with this. I don't want to do it. But then we had no option, And so suddenly I was doing all these workshops and master classes online. And then I was like, oh, why not? So now I've had a bunch of Abhinayam classes, three or four different groups from all over different parts of the world. Like you were saying, you were teaching this kid in Kentucky. So in Australia and Canada and other places. So I'm just teaching. These are all older students. They're all in their 20s, 30s. And some of them are teachers themselves. Some of them are students. But they're older. They're young kids. And I think most of them would have had their Arangetram and stuff. So I'm just teaching them Abhinayam. And then, of course, the regular classes. And we're doing the Samarpan 2.0 every weekend online. So that's how we're kind of continuing to survive and keep busy. And I think it's very important. And my parents of my students have been very, very supportive and very, very nice, because it's also important to keep the kids busy, mentally, physically busy in this time. So we can't cancel, because it makes a difference to their psychological well-being, It's important.
What is the future of Natyam over there? where do you see Natyam dance going? What is the future of Natyam with respect to?
Huge question. The good news is that so many of us have been here now for 30, 40 years and have set a solid foundation in America. There is no dearth of students for anybody. I mean, but I don't know how the future will be in terms of the next generation taking it over and teaching. Like my students don't want to teach, Bharatanatyam because they feel like we didn't grow up in that culture. We don't know enough. I don't feel I'm confident enough to be able to teach. They may teach under my guidance, they will teach and then I will kind of say, okay, this is good, or auntie, what should I teach, or whatever they'll ask me, and I'll say, okay, why don't you teach? I do encourage them to choreograph and things like that, but they don't feel they can do it on their own, just establish a school and start teaching, which is kind of good news, bad news, because you don't want all and sundry teaching, and bringing down the quality of the form. But at the same time, I hope at least a few of the girls who've learned will continue the tradition, the form for coming generations, But it may also take, contemporary forms, right? A lot of them are using the vocabulary to explore a form. I can just say contemporary Bharatanatyam, which may not follow the margam, may not follow the structure of the repertoire, but they'll use the vocabulary.
You've been choreographing different kinds of productions. What was the most challenging production that you thought you took it up to choreograph?
Every production has its own challenges, but I love to challenge myself, and I love to explore different things. Also taking into consideration the audiences we are presenting it for, and also to expand the mind of the audiences. So I'm not doing only like dance dramas or margam, we do that also. And I'm very respectful and feel accountable to my gurus and what they gave me. My students always tease me because I always think whatever I do, in the back of my head, Mami and Vadyar are sitting, and I'm always thinking, are they going to say good job, or are they going to say what so I'm always thinking that subconsciously in my head. So I always feel whatever I do should be acceptable to them, and both my gurus were very open-minded and very giving and generous. So I that was so in 1998. So 1992 was the 10th anniversary of my school and a decade since I started teaching here. So we did a production called Maya Manusha, and it was a challenge because the kids were young. They all learned only for about 10 years at that point. And also we did it as a fundraiser for a charity. I felt being in the US and in a bubble and where you don't see poverty, where you don't see suffering as much, it is important to acknowledge that all children have the privileges we have, right? And they should do something for them. So we did a fundraiser in 1992, and then it became like an annual tradition. So every year we did a program that would raise funds for a different children's charity. So while I was doing that, in 1998, every year I would be thinking, what should we do? We did Navavida Bhakti. We did Eka Naika, where we have, when you live in India, you don't think about it so much, but here they think, oh, Hindus, they have many gods and they have many, But I wanted to say that we may have different gods, but they're all the same. Whether it's Vishnu or Muruga, Krishna or Rama or Shiva, they're all ultimately, it's only one God, right? So we did a program based on that concept. And then, so in 98, I thought, we live in one of the most diverse communities in the world. There are, in fact, I just heard that in Irvine, the city of Irvine, schools, 150 languages are spoken from all over the world. So it's such a diverse community. And why don't we work with other communities and other cultures? It'll be so much fun for us to learn about them and share what we have, So I did a collaboration with Taiko, Kinnara Taiko, which is a Japanese drumming band group. And then that program, we did a also collaboration with a Indo jazz band, American jazz band, and they had done a jazz piece called Sundara. So based on the story of Sundareshwara, the band was called Tanjore. And so we did the story of Sundareshwara using that jazz music. And then the next year we did a collaboration with flamenco company, Spanish flamenco. Oh, I love flamenco. And then and with a Persian band, Persian music from Iran. So we had choreographed a folk dance kind of thing to their music. So we did those kind of interesting things. And then I love collaborating and working with different people, and also expanding my brain and my understanding and knowledge. So in 2003, we did one of the productions. I did 3 productions in 2003. It was crazy. And one of the productions I did was on film music. So one of our very dear friends is V.A.K. Rangarao. You might know him in Chennai. He's a dance critic, and he's also a big movie buff. And we used to meet, and we would talk about, he would translate all the Telugu padams for us with Mami, Kalanidhi Mami. And he would always talk about how great the dancers and dances were in the movies. Kamala used to dance so beautifully in the old movies, and you should see it. And then we were all like, whatever, dance songs, whatever. And then when Bollywood started taking over, I was thinking, how will it be if trained dancers whose bodies are trained, who have discipline, who have grace, do these dance songs, right? Rather than learning in 2 months and getting on the stage. And these girls have all, learned dance for 15 years or more. And so we did a whole, then I asked Mami, and she said, Radhika Shurajit, works a lot in movies and TV. And she's also Mami's student. She's Dhananjana and Shantaka's, senior student. And you ask her to come and help you. So she came, and in 3 weeks, we did this production called Celluloid Classics. And it was based on both Bharatanatyam and folk dance. We did like a Koratti, like a fisherman's dance with Chemin, the song from Chemin. But not all songs were dance songs, because you're dancers, it doesn't have to be a dance song. We're not dancing, gyrating to rhythm. We're doing Abhinayam. We're doing... and we did Ada Hai Chandrama from Amrupali, Marendirinda Pakum from Tilana Mohanambar. So, things like that. But the challenging part was we were using live music. So in 3 weeks, in those days, today we have the whole gamut of musicians. We have so many musicians locally. But in those days, in 2003, to train the dancers, train the musicians, and make costumes, because we couldn't, there was no designer, and there was no courier service that we could just say, okay, we'll order 40 costumes from India, So we would take a sari and tear it up and make dupatta and, go to the craft store and buy white feathers for the fisherman's dance and beads and make garlands for the gypsy girls. And so I was just talking to Radhika a couple of days ago, and I was like, I can't even imagine how we did that in 3 weeks, I don't think I can do it anymore. But we did in 2003. And then this is a program, if you want to ask about challenging, I did a performance. So around the same time, I was reading an article about Ganga, the river Ganga. And there was a project that had been initiated to clean up because it was really bad and was really polluted. So it occurred to me at that time that, wow, that is like women. If Ganga was a woman, she is being abused, and assaulted and ill-treated, And so I drew this parallel of a woman and Ganga, how a woman is sprightly. I mean, a young girl, a young child is sprightly and energetic and everything when she comes out of the Himalayas in the upper, and then she kind of slowly mellows out and flows through the central part of India, and then she merges into the ocean and loses her identity and becomes one with the cosmos, universe, right? So that kind of parallels with the life of a woman. And in the middle, all that she goes through as she travels this path. But it was a very abstract idea. And I did not want to use any songs. I didn't want to use Gangashtakam. I didn't want anybody to write any songs for me. I wanted it to come out just out of an idea, just, like that. So I did have conversations with Chandru Anna, Professor C.V. Chandrasekhar, and Srimati Sujata Vijay Raghavan, the musicologist, just to pick their brain and see what they had in terms of ideas. So it took about 3 years of just marinating, just thinking, how do we do it, before we kind of came up with some idea, some structure, basic structure. And so I would tell the girls, we had about 5 of them. Yeah, 4 of them. 4 of them and me. So we had, I would come and say, okay, today we're going to just do Ganga as a child. And so, okay, let's just pick Mishra Chaputadam and just do a series of movements that you think represents a young child, jumping, playing, jump roping, or like all these little things, playfulness of the child. And then we'll kind of structure it together and string it together. Then Babu Parmeshwaran, who lives here, came and he would watch the whole sequence, and he composed music for it after it had been choreographed, just using sampling of music, through the computer. No live instruments. We didn't have access to that. And then, of course, we'd have to fine tune it a little bit finally. So like that, we did child Ganga, youth Ganga. And youth, the youth with jealousy and all the things relating to teenagers and how they feel, and how they, like the tributaries, right? How they part ways and then they come back together. And those all represented to me the youth, how they want to fight with each other, but yet they're friends and they're jealous and they're gossiping and they're, all the elements of youth. And then opening number, we had Ganga Aarti. We took a beautiful composition by Hariprasad Chaurasya, a flute composition, and we did Ganga Aarti with lamps, like they do in Rishikesh. Very slow, very slow. I had Dominique Delorme from Paris. He came and choreographed that for us using karnas. So we did that. And then I had a local poet and a spoken word artist called Dilo. She wrote poems to different aspects of women, challenges for women, that I did abhinayam to. So it was just spoken word, no music. And I did abhinayam to that. So like that, we developed the whole program. It was about 70 minutes long. And we ended with Tarana, by Ali Akbar Khan, which we kind of merged. All of us, all the things came and merged into the ocean, and you kind of become one with. So that was a challenge, because I took on something that was quite different. And of course, we did celluloid too in 2017. This time we didn't use live music. We used all original music, but we like combined one song. If it was in like Vande Mataram, Rahman's, we used Hindi and Tamil. We kind of blended it together. So one charanam in Tamil, one charanam in Hindi, like that. So it would, so it would kind of cater to all those. But I
All
that it has to be songs in all different languages. Cannot do just Tamil, because my audience, very, very diverse. So, but the performances were received very well. Ganga also was very, I think Ganga was a little bit like that for the audience, because knowing me, they think I'm a traditionalist. I don't know what that is, but they were like, what is this, but they were intrigued by it. They were like, wow, this is so different.
What was the repeat value of these productions? How often did you perform, or was it only for the annual day celebrations, or did you take these productions across US?
So the first celluloid, we couldn't take it on tour because we had live music and it was only once. That was it. We couldn't recreate it again. The second celluloid, we did take it on tour. We went to Canada, we went to Ohio, and all over California. Ganga also, we traveled all over California. We went to Las Vegas and Phoenix and Texas and few other places. We also did Panchabhutam. Chandru Anna had come. I'm always intrigued by something which is abstract and not storytelling, because I feel like the audience is here, and especially if they're not of Indian origin, the storytelling could be a little bit of a challenge, because they don't know the stories, they don't know the intricacies of all the characters and everything, and it could be a bit mind-boggling. So I prefer to do something which is visually interesting, or which is universal ideas and thoughts, right? And Panchabhutam Anna had choreographed based on the 5 elements. He had, at that time, actually, he came and he set it on different companies in different cities, in San Francisco, here with me, and then in Chicago and Boston, I think also. So that also we toured quite a few places. And that's also, it's a universal theme, right? Everybody understands fire, water, wind, earth, space. So that also was received well. But it was based on Anna's music, and it was very structured, choreographic, based on Bharatanatyam vocabulary, of course. Yeah.
At this juncture, I would like to take Gayatri Krishnaveni Lakshman's thing. Namaste Akka, so nice to hear you. I met you first in 1997 when Ashray was so close to me. And Chandi Akka, please give her my wishes. And she also says, so lovely to see you both in white and red, Durga and Saraswati together. So sweet of you, Gayatri. Thank you.
Thank you, Gayatri.
Maya Papaya used to, have I read it right? Maya Papaya used to learn from her in Irvine CA. I mean,
oh, yeah.
Okay, Papaya is the right word. I didn't mess up with the name.
That's what she's typed, yeah.
Okay, so now that brings me to, now that it's time for you to have your digital arangetram. Enna padlan solla, well, sing. What would you like to perform?
So I'll just sit here and do.
Yeah, please. However, whatever is comfortable for you, however is comfortable for you.
I know you're in a different ragam, right? We had talked about it. So it's okay. We sing it in Yaman, but Yaman.
I take it in Mohan Kalyani, in so many other ragas also, stanza to stanza. Let me say, I go impromptu, so I thought I need.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you, I mean, your cam is on the, not on the landscape mode, so it's
So,
okay. We'll try to.
yeah, because I'm using my phone today. So
Okay.
it's tape mode. Do you want me to switch it? No?
If possible, switch it. Otherwise, it's okay. I mean,
One
now that
second.
yeah, try. Yes, 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 yes. Ladies and gentlemen, that is Ramya Harishankar with us all the way from California, who has joined us and who will be performing a wonderful, beautiful piece for us. Probably, I just said just few seconds before the thing I said we'll do this, and she's so kind enough to say, okay, we'll do this. So I thought now that she's spoken about Padams and Devaranamams and all, she could do Chikkavanevanu, because that is another thing which many mothers, young mothers would relate to, and the Krishna concept is always good. So I thought we'll do that. Yeah, could you see on the plan? Yes, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful.
So for those of you that are not familiar with Harish, can you lift it up so my head is cut off? It is where the Gopika about yeah, talking about this mischievous little Krishna and how he is harassing them, and he's incessantly playing tricks on them. And it is one of my favorites, and something that I learned from Kanthomami many years ago. Very close to my heart, because it's something that my father, though he teach it to me, anytime I went with him, he would ask me to perform, so though even though he very fond of this particular piece, so I share it with you. It's impromptu, so it's going to be a little bit openly structured.
ಚಿಕ್ಕವನೇ ಇವನು ಚಿಕ್ಕವನೇ ಇವನು ನಮ್ಮ ಕೈಗೆ ಸಿಕ್ಕದೆ ಓಡುವನು 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 ಅಕ್ಕಯ್ಯ ಮಕ್ಕಳು ಹುಟ್ಟುವ ಮರ್ಮವ ಗಕ್ಕನೆ ಎನ ಕೂಡೆ ಹೇಳನು ತಾನೇ ಅಕ್ಕಯ್ಯ ಮಕ್ಕಳು ಹುಟ್ಟುವ ಮರ್ಮವ ಗಕ್ಕನೆ ಎನ ಕೂಡೆ ಹೇಳನು ತಾನೇ ಚಿಕ್ಕವನೇ ಇವನು ನಮ್ಮ ಕೈಗೆ ಸಿಕ್ಕದೆ ಓಡುವನು ನೀರಿಗೆ ಹೋಗುವಾಗ ನಿಂತುಕೊಂಡು ಯಾರು ಇಲ್ಲದೆ ಕರೆವ ನೀರಿಗೆ ಹೋಗುವಾಗ ನಿಂತುಕೊಂಡು ಯಾರು ಇಲ್ಲದೆ ಕರೆವ ದಾರಿಯ ಡವ ಕಟ್ಟಿ ಕೂಡಿಕೊಯ್ಯನು ತಾನೆ ದಾರಿಯ ಡವ ಕಟ್ಟಿ ಕೂಡಿಕೊಯ್ಯನು ತಾನೆ ಹೋರಾಟವ ಮಾಡಿ ಹೋಗಾಡಿಸಿದ ನಮ್ಮ ಹೋರಾಟವ ಮಾಡಿ ಹೋಗಾಡಿಸಿದ ನಮ್ಮ ಚಿಕ್ಕವನೇ ಇವನು ನಮ್ಮ ಕೈಗೆ ಸಿಕ್ಕದೆ ಓಡುವನು ಮೊಸರಲು ಕಡಿಯುವಾಗ ಬೆನ್ನಲಿ ಬಂದು ಕಣ್ಣ ಮುಚ್ಚಿ ಕಾಡುವ ಮೊಸರನು ಕಡಿಯುವಾಗ ಬೆನ್ನಲಿ ಬಂದು ಕಣ್ಣ ಮುಚ್ಚಿ ಕಾಡುವ ಬೆನ್ನಿಗೆ ತಾರೆಂದು ಕುಚಗಳ ಪಿಡಿಯುತ ಬೆನ್ನಿಗೆ ತಾರೆಂದು ಕುಚಗಳ ಪಿಡಿಯುತ ಬಣ್ಣಿಸಿ ಬಣ್ಣಿಸಿ ಪ್ರಣಯ ಮಾಡಿದ ನಮ್ಮ ಬಣ್ಣಿಸಿ ಬಣ್ಣಿಸಿ ಪ್ರಣಯ ಮಾಡಿದ ನಮ್ಮ ಚಿಕ್ಕವನೇ ಇವನು ನಮ್ಮ ಕೈಗೆ ಸಿಕ್ಕದೆ ಓಡುವನು ಚಿಕ್ಕವನೇ ಇವನು ನಿದ್ದೆ ಕಣ್ಣಲ್ಲಿ ನಾನಿದ್ದೆ ನಿದ್ದೆ ಕಣ್ಣಲ್ಲಿ ನಾನಿದ್ದೆ ಗಂಡನೆಂದು ಬುದ್ಧಿಗಿಲ್ಲದೆ ಕೂಡಿದೆ ನಿದ್ದೆ ಕಣ್ಣಲ್ಲಿ ನಾನಿದ್ದೆ ಗಂಡನೆಂದು ಬುದ್ಧಿಗಿಲ್ಲದೆ ಕೂಡಿದೆ ಎದ್ದು ನೋಡಲು ಅವನ ಎಡಗೈಯ ಪಿಡಿಯುತ್ತ ಎದ್ದು ನೋಡಲು ಅವನ ಎಡಗೈಯ ಪಿಡಿಯುತ್ತ ಮುದ್ದು ಶ್ರೀ ಪುರಂದರ ವಿಠಲ ಕಣಮ್ಮ ಮುದ್ದು ಶ್ರೀ ಪುರಂದರ ವಿಠಲ ಕಣಮ್ಮ ಚಿಕ್ಕವನೇ ಇವನು ನಮ್ಮ ಕೈಗೆ ಸಿಕ್ಕದೆ ಓಡುವನು ಚಿಕ್ಕವನೇ ಇವನು ನಮ್ಮ ಕೈಗೆ ಸಿಕ್ಕದೆ ಓಡುವನು ಓ ಚಿಕ್ಕವನೇ ಇವನು ನಮ್ಮ ಕೈಗೆ ಸಿಕ್ಕದೆ ಓಡುವನು ಸಿಕ್ಕದೆ ಓಡುವನು ಸಿಕ್ಕದೆ ಓಡುವನು ಚಿಕ್ಕವನೇ ಇವನು. Beautiful. I hope I did at least 5% of justice of what you did.
That was fun.
Justice to what you
Just do something.
It was nice, this is what these today's kids, I know when they see so much, Lakshman Swami also. Lakshman, good to see you here. Glad that you joined us. Lata Sharas says, wonderful. Hope you're watching from beginning. So, anything as a parting note for youngsters, what do you have to say for youngsters of today who want to pursue this art abroad?
Oh, wow.
Or dancers who think abroad is an easy access through dance?
No, not at all. But I have nothing to say because these kids, I think we grew up so naive and so innocent, as I said before. These just generation of kids, thanks to social media and internet and everything, they're so smart. They're on top of everything and they know how to navigate and negotiate. But the only thing, and I think this is not something I'm saying, that everybody is saying, is that problem everybody wants everything yesterday, right? They want to come to dance class and next year they want to be good at it, or everything takes time. Anything that's good takes time, right? You have to marinate. I tell my students too, like all these songs, Chekkavane or Yaru Kahilum Bayama, that I've marinated in it for so long, for 30 years. And not that I'm thinking about it every day, but even learning items, right? You have to learn 50 items to be able to do 5 items properly. You can't learn 5 items and think those 5 items are going to be masterpieces. It's not going to happen like that, So it's something that the patience to learn and think about it and marinate in it, and that is the only way, right? Especially with these forms that require so much mentally, physically, emotionally, intellectually. You cannot, it's not like you listen to the music and shake your body and do something with your hands and you can get up on the stage, wear something fabulous and do it. It's not like that, no. So I just tell the kids, my students and everybody, patience and in fact, I should say something really funny. One of my students was going to send something. Also, the other myth about America is that, oh, all these kids are now dancing because they want to get good college admission but that those days are gone. There was a time when if they had an Arangetram or Bharatanatyam, they learned, they would get admission into a good college or something like that. But that doesn't happen. I hear even the colleges have gotten smart to this, and they think, oh, everybody's having an Arangetram, so there has no value to this. So I hear it doesn't have the same value as before. But also, so she was wanting to record one of her pieces and send it to a college for she's going to do dance as a minor. So she said, oh, what should I do, aunties? And I said, oh, do this this Kavadi Shandar that you did for your Arangetram, because it has Nritya and Abhinaya. And she said, oh, but I've done it so many times, I've performed it so many everywhere, and I don't know if I want to do. I said, that's why you should do it, because you've done it so many times. You've spent so much time thinking about it. You've practiced it. If I would do the item that I'm most familiar with, most comfortable with, when I'm sending it to somebody new, I said, they haven't seen it. You may have seen it, but they haven't seen it. They're going to see it for the first time. So just record that. So the need to have something new and fresh all the time. I mean, I feel like a Varnam takes 50 performances to settle. Finally you think, oh, I got the hang of this. So it takes and also it changes, right? All my pieces, I think about it now 30 years later when I'm teaching. I'm like, why didn't I think of this 10 years ago or 20 years ago or 30 years ago? It's part of your growth also. As you grow, as your environment, as your circumstances change, you come up with new ways of looking at things and doing things. So patience, and continue to learn and continue to watch as many dances as you can, and absorb and learn and develop a good eye, right, for what is good and what is.
And watch such kind of series where you get to hear from people their real experiences rather than.
Absolutely. As I said at the top of the conversation, these conversations that you're having with so many amazing artists, it's really and so many people are sitting in their little spots and doing amazing work, and nobody even knows about them. Like I was watching your conversation with Miss Bate the other day. Nobody even knows about so many of these people, but they're all doing, such good work wherever they are.
This is what I told my family group also at times. I said, see, you may not be knowing everyone, but this is one medium of knowing them at least. Make an attempt to know, but don't block yourself from this doesn't concern me.
Yeah.
You can talk about politics, you can talk about everything. You would want to know what your neighbor is doing, what your neighbor's president is doing in another country, what Trump is doing to everything. So why not talk about something? Unfortunately, crime comes before culture. So we should not just glorify crime. We should also, and I add a lot of things. I say politics, cricket, and crime also come before culture. So we need to give more importance to such conversations and every performance, so that it adds up to the human value. And at this juncture, I would, I'm glad that some people who are reluctant are also watching this show. I watched the entire talk. Ramya told your eyes spoke, cause could not see your hand throughout. That still told the emotions, good impromptu job.
Who's
Thank
that?
you, Jayanti. Jayanti Venkatraman.
She's my sister-in-law.
Oh, wonderful. Good.
No,
You have
what?
family there. Lata Sharas says, my daughter has learned so much more than dance from you. She has become such a caring and wonderful person. Thank you, Ramya. You are a great positive influence for her development.
Thank you.
Glad that she watched.
We get to be the mothers, second mothers.
Now, I'm so happy, and we've come to the fag end of this conversation.
Thank you so much again for inviting me, Bhushan. This was very.
Thank you. Thanks a lot for getting up so early. I understand the time frame, the time difference that we both are in, and for you to take up the pains to come over to the show, share your thoughts, share your journey, and I'm so glad that I could catch you, and we did this. Thank you once again. I really and I live my dream day, Ramya. Okay, that is your sister-in-law says that.
Yeah. So anyway, we were in Mysore, my company and I, performing in 1995.
I did see that, I think.
Yeah. So hopefully, next time when we come to India, if and when I come to India, we'll now
Post-pandemic, yes, I know. Post-pandemic, we all have hopes that hopefully, we always heard that 100 years ago there was plague which was rampant and which swept the entire world. And today we are in this time where, COVID is sweeping us and we are trying to combat this kind of psychological, physical trauma that we are all going through. So this is one way I thought probably where we interact with artists, as you said in the earlier thing,
yeah, and
to know.
Also, it's the value of the conversation is there, but also it is invigorating and keeps our minds and bodies engaged. And so we're not sitting in our homes and being morose and thinking what to do. We keep ourselves busy and also do something valuable,
Indeed, I'm so happy and glad that, and I should be thanking your husband as well as your son. That brings me back to one last question. Was there any thought that, did you sulk any time that you were not blessed with a daughter?
No. Actually, initially, I had my children very, very late. I had my son after 20 years of marriage, almost 20 years. And we have two sons. The younger one is an athlete. He plays basketball and tennis. My older one is a musician, starting to be a composer and a musician. And I used to say, oh, I'm so happy because I have kids. I deal with kids, and then at 8 o'clock, I pack them and send them home, and then I don't have to worry about them. I don't have to worry about feeding them. I just enjoy the process of teaching them and sharing and seeing their eyes open, in joy when I teach them movements and seeing them blossom from little seeds to beautiful dancers. And I just enjoy that. I don't want to deal with day in and day out issues, But then, of course, I had two sons, and because I have all these daughters, like I said, in a way, I have the privilege and pleasure of being mother to so many daughters, and many of them are very, very attached to me. And so I don't mind at all that I don't have biological daughters. So I can give my all to my dance daughters, if you want to call it that.
I am also blessed with two sons, and I feel we can do justice to all the girls who are all a part of our entourage or our dance companies, where we won't have biased opinion that my daughter has to stand in the center and she'll be the heroine over. So that way, yes, the other students are privileged to have we having sons which works in their favor.
Yeah.
So thank you, Ramya.
I say that all the time, there is no conflict of interest at all. If you dance well, if you make me proud, you're going to get the opportunity and more. My only criteria is I don't even care about, how the parents are, what the parents do, I don't even care about that. I said, if you are motivated, hardworking, have a good work ethic, and you make me proud, that's all that matters, So, yeah.
Thank you, Ramya ji. It was wonderful having a conversation like this so early in the morning for you and so evening for all of us.
Good.
We did
today. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thanks a lot. Once again, I'm happy that we had this conversation, and which will be so enriching for so many students and so many dancers across the world who look up to you also for advice.
So hopefully my students and families will watch it later at an earthly hour in California.
Yes, certainly. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Ramya Harishankar ji all the way from California. I hope she has given you so much information, so much knowledge, and so much of insight into her vast work that she's done for so many years. And with the same promise that tomorrow also we meet up with another dancer, and that is Dr. Swarnamalya Galesh. You may have seen her in several episodes of serials like Anbula Snehiti or movies and dancing. She's a dance historian, a dancer, thinker, activist. Let us know more about her tomorrow, same time at Vishwa Nruthya Bhushana on our Facebook page, Vishwa Nruthya Bhushana at 6:30 sharp. Just today we had the hit, so we had to delay the initial 5 minutes. I'm so sorry again for that. And ನಾಳೆ ನೀವು ಬನ್ನಿ ನಿಮ್ಮವರನ್ನು ಕರೆತನ್ನಿ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಭೇಟಿ ವಿಶ್ವ ನೃತ್ಯಗಾನ ಭೂಷಣದಲ್ಲಿ ನಾಳೆ ಆಗತ್ತೆ. ಈ ಒಂದು ಸುಂದರ ಸಂಜೆಯನ್ನ ಅಲಂಕಾರ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ಸ್ವರ್ಣಮಾಲಿ ಅವರು. ಅದ್ಭುತ ಅಭಿನೇತ್ರಿ, ಅದ್ಭುತ ನರ್ತಕಿ ನಿಮ್ಮೊಂದಿಗೆ ಬಂದು ಅವರ ಮನದಾಳದ ಮಾತುಗಳನ್ನ ಹಂಚ್ಕೋತಾರೆ. ಅಲ್ಲಿಯವರೆಗೂ ಸ್ಟೇ ಇಂಡೋರ್ಸ್, ಸ್ಟೇ ಸೇಫ್, ಫೈಟ್ ಕರೋನಾ, ಬಟ್ ಕೀಪ್ ವಾಚಿಂಗ್ ವಿಶ್ವ ನೃತ್ಯಗಾನ ಭೂಷಣ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ನಾನು ಬದರಿ ದಿವ್ಯ ಭೂಷಣ್ signing off today. Stay indoors, stay safe, fight corona. As I told you, sit in your rooms, comfort of your drawing rooms, log into the Facebook page so that you get to see such valuable information coming from different scholars, artists across the world. I'm so happy and glad that all of you who are watching now and who will watch later will be happy and accept what I said and understand. Thank you. Thanks a lot.